0022213 to get all your publications for only 20 shillings. For you to get your paper, you could send a WhatsApp message to 0700222213 to get a copy of your publication online, and that's only for 20 shillings. We're going to be reviewing the papers not too long from now, right here on Morning Express. But I'm not alone. We're with Trix. Good morning, Trix.
Good morning, Michael. As I said, my name is Trix Ingado, and today we'll be taking a look at filicide. That is the deliberate killing of children by their parents. We all have seen that story that made headlines this weekend, whereby a mother took the lives of 4 of her children. So we're going to dissect into that, see the social aspect and the possible mental health problems that might surround such acts. And obviously that is a broader subject because the dailies this morning are reflecting the death of 2 minors who were discovered in the boot of a car at a police station. So that's going to be perhaps one of the questions I would pose to our religious leader who will be part of the discussion, to see what is happening to society and why people are feeling quite unease in the taking of lives of children.
Absolutely. Maybe it's a reflection of where we are as a society, particularly mental illness, having a stigma attached to it for a long time. So that brings me to the question that we have for you this morning. What do you think should be done to reduce stigma associated with mental illness? What do you think should be done to reduce stigma associated with mental illness? That's a question that we're asking. The hashtag is KTN Morning Express. If you'd like to tweet, she is at Trix Ingado. I am at Michael G. Gitonga. Do let us know, what do you think should be done to reduce stigma associated with mental illness? Remember, one of the stories that we had over the weekend was of a woman who killed her 4 children, literally strangling them, and later on she blamed it on a devil's attack. So where do we draw the line? Of course, there is huge concern as to how we are doing as a country mentally, and mental illness being one of those issues. So Trix Ingado is going to be handling that segment, where she will be looking at that from a psychological and also a religious point of view. But for now, would like to look at what's making headlines on the dailies, and joining me to have that conversation, we are joined by Alex Manyasi, who is a governance consultant or governance expert. Thank you for joining us, Alex. And still on that note, we start with the headline this morning: shock of dead children in car at police station. And I mean, this particular story stinks in every single way that you can think of. The fact that these are very young children who were found in the boot of a car that was in a police station. So of course, there are issues to do with how did they get there, how did they die, who killed them, but also the fact that this for 10 days was happening for police to be looking for them, yet they were right under their nose, so to speak. Alex?
Yeah, Michael, probably this is one of the saddest stories you can read from the papers this morning. And just like we were discussing before we began, I do not understand, because this car had been parked in this police station before the children went missing. And therefore, it means that either the children were locked up in the boot, or the dead bodies were actually brought and put in the boot. Now, when you imagine that this is a police station, and the police were supposed to be looking for these kids, then it's a mystery. This is what I have been saying for a very long time. I have said that as a country, our police system needs to be changed from being physical to being investigative, in the sense that we need to stop having police do things because they are physically seen to be doing things, and go beyond that and have a system where they can investigate things. Because for a cargo to say that, like this, to be brought and put in a boot of a car that was involved in an accident, it means someone actually came with this luggage physically and opened the boot and put it there. Now, the information that was being carried across was that whatever it is that you're looking for, we have brought it to you. And number 2, the communication also, and I hope that they will investigate this, because by the time someone takes it to the police station, I hope they're going to find out whether it has something to do with the police themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course,
because, because that, in my view, is direct communication to the police. So someone needs to find out exactly why it had to be a police
and
station.
what message is being sent to
Exactly.
them. Just to bring you to the scope of this particular story, these are two 4-year-old children who apparently were friends and had been friends for a long time. Then they went missing and finally found in the boot of a car. However, this car had been there from March the 10th. And for the 10 days that the children were missing, the police, of course, were going helter-skelter looking for them, only to find them in the boot of a car that was right under there. So like Alex mentions, there are several things that, of course, would like to find out. Could it be a police officer who is involved in this and knows how, the orientation of the police station, and as a result, brought the bodies and dumped them into the boot? Or was it just the killer who managed to somehow bring the bodies and dump them into the boot? According to this story, the owner of the car was just coming to collect his car. It had been there since March the 10th, and this was after an accident took place, but he had come to collect his car, and after sensing a foul smell coming from the car, opened the boot and found this cargo, and of course now involved the police. So shock. It still remains as a shocker, and of course we're waiting to hear what the police are going to say after they have conducted their investigations. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the family of the two young children, Alvina Mudeu and Henry Jackton. May they rest in peace. On to other stories that are on the headlines of the papers, or rather the front page of the paper. We have a story there. I'm on my way out, CJ Maraga tells Kenyans. And interestingly, the same story has a different caption on the Daily Nation, and on the Nation, if I can find it quickly, it says, "I'm not going anywhere," CJ tells Kenyans. But after looking through the story, generally the story is that he is going to be doing his full term and time until November, when he then is just going to be 3 months shy of the official retirement age of 70. But of course, the CJ, becoming very clear that he is not about to leave his office before time as his predecessor had done. Alex, your thoughts on Maraga's times in office?
Yeah, I think Maraga has had very interesting times, of course, from the time when he nullified, when the court nullified the election to this time. He has had very interesting times, and probably why he's talking about not going anywhere is basically because of there have been calls that probably he needed to exit office and allow someone else to take over from him. But I guess he's just saying, I am not going anywhere. But at the same time, all of us know that he should be proceeding on terminal leave from November this year.
Right.
And so it also means that actually the process of replacing him should almost be beginning. And so he's not going anywhere until November, but at the same time, he's leaving anyway.
Right.
So that's where we stand.
And interestingly, he took advantage of that particular, when he was making that statement, just to throw a jibe at the president. And he said if he would have an opportunity to speak to the president, which of course that statement right there already tells us a lot, but if he had an opportunity to speak to the president, then the one thing that he would want to ask him is the, appointment of the 41 judges that, of course, we know they have had contention between the two of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of contention. Of course, Maraga and the Judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission insist that the president has no role. His only role is to make the appointments. But on the other side, the executive, through the AG, has said that there are judges within that list that are tainted, and therefore they shouldn't be appointed. But Maraga's argument on the other side has always been that if you're saying that they are tainted, then who are they? That's number one. Number two, his argument has always been that if they are sitting judges who are supposed to be promoted and you're saying they are tainted, then why should they even be in the office in the first place? Right. If the allegations, then they should be leveled against them so that they can be removed from office. So the arguments and the counter-arguments are, of course, not helpful for the judiciary, but at the same time, they're not also helpful for the working relationship between the two arms of government.
Absolutely.
Because the two of them...
Maybe, just your thoughts on the fact that he seems, the CJ seems to be trying to get the attention of the president, which seems to be ignored. This is not the first time that he has mentioned that if he got an opportunity to talk to the president, he would talk to him, kind of alluding to the fact that he has tried, but the president has snubbed him.
He has actually said several times during the hard-hitting message that he did a while back, when this issue of the judges came up. He said that he has tried several times to get an appointment, which he hasn't. And it's not the first time we've seen the CJ complain. We have seen him complain about national functions, where he said he was going to make a decision whether to attend certain functions or not. Right. He has also complained about having made calls to the police. I think at that time it was the former police commissioner, and he was also ignored. So it's not the first time, and remember, there are three arms of government in Kenya, and judiciary is one of them, and he's ahead of an arm of government. So this kind of allegations are not good. Of course, nobody knows the truth about everything, but at the same time, the fights, especially in the public,
executive and the judiciary,
it's just not helpful for anyone.
Absolutely. All right, another story that's still on the front page. It seems like it's a very busy front page today. We have the ODM leader who flew to the United Arab Emirates for surgery. And on the Standard, it says, "I am feeling strong after Dubai surgery," says Raila. There is the headline also on the Daily Nation, "I feel great," Raila says on Living Hospital. I don't know if you managed to see the video that was doing round.
Yeah, I did.
As he was interviewed by his daughter, and you know, he was basically looking in very high spirits.
This guy Raila is a very interesting person, and even when he does a video, he hits headlines. When he does a joke, he hits headlines. I don't know, but I feel like anything that Raila does, he hits headlines, which is very interesting. I've never understood, by the way, but it's just interesting.
Well, they call him an enigma. So as a result, I think he has carved himself a niche in terms of just, you know, being a headline maker, whether it is because he is on the side of government or against it.
Yeah, I'm sure even Uhuru was joking, but he was not. But anyway.
Yeah, so there you go. Raila is fine according to that particular article right there. And also, if you've seen the video, I'm sure you'll agree with me that he seems to be doing pretty well. On page 4 of the Standard this morning, we have Kalonzo, cause of my woes, says Ngilu. Now, just for those of that may not be aware, Ngilu is literally waiting for the MCAs who have threatened to impeach her, just like we saw the Kirinyaga governor. But the Kitui governor, Charity Ngilu, has maintained that she is being persecuted by the Wiper leadership, which is hell-bent to derailing her development agenda for the county. Your thoughts on this as a political analyst, whether there is you know, any credence in this, and why the Kitui governor would feel that Kalonzo Musyoka is behind her woes?
So two things. Number one is that naturally you will expect that Kalonzo will try to consolidate the Ukambani vote and the Ukambani leadership. And therefore, any dissenting voices will obviously get to be fought. And Ngilu is likely to be one of them. You remember there's a time Ngilu, I think, and Kivuta Kibwana and someone else were attempting to, to form some sort of alliance, but that failed. And so it's not the first time that Ngilu has attempted to go against the grain. That's number one. But on the other side, if you look at some of the allegations against Charity Ngilu, some of them are a bit embarrassing because as a woman, and if she can appoint only one woman into her cabinet, then that is a bit of an embarrassment, if you ask me, because it's just not right. It doesn't look right, and it almost affirms the very unfortunate statements that people have been saying, that women always fight their own women, and that should not be the case in this. And I'm not even going into the corruption allegations because that one you really know. Yeah. But those basic things that can be done, in my view, should just be done. But at the same time, the wars with Kalonzo will always be there as long as Kalonzo wants to be the one who makes...
The kingpin in Ukambani.
Exactly. Those ones will always be there.
And maybe just widening the conversation a little bit, we've seen governors come under a lot of fire from MCAs. Your thoughts on whether MCAs have gone rogue and possibly just trying to lynch their governors, or they do have a point in trying to impeach governors? This is not the first time. We've seen it happen severally. And of course, in the recent past, we've had Kirinyaga governor who was cleared by Senate.
One of the things that we have seen in this country is that it has become impossible to know whether any time MCAs bring allegations against governors, whether it's because they are serious about it or not. And this is why I say that. I say that because there are many governors in this country who have plundered the resources of the counties, and the MCAs are quiet. So it also means that those governors actually know how to manage the MCAs, which is very sad. But at the same time, I guess if you look at some of the allegations that the MCAs bring, some of them do not make sense and do not warrant a governor being out of office for them to be listened to. And therefore, it's important that they are very clear. And I think it might also mean relooking at what are the allegations that MCAs can bring to impeach a governor. Because also, and this is what I said also last week when the impeachment motion against Waiguru was going on, and then the Ngilu one came up, and my argument was you can't bring up two motions at the same time, almost at the same time, for the only two existing women governors in the country. It just didn't look good. But at the same time, it's good that we focus on ensuring that if it's about accountability, then everybody should be accountable to the public resources. But the MCAs, in terms of the oversight role, for some of them, sometimes I keep wondering whether they even understand what oversight means.
Right.
And there has also been arguments that went even to the Supreme Court around whether the governor should be, the oversight should be done by the county assembly or by the Senate. So all these division of responsibilities need to be ironed out so that we know exactly on what grounds the MCAs can impeach a governor and what issues need to be taken to the Senate for purposes, because we can see, for example, the Senate has not looked at the accounts of the counties, I think, for almost 5 years. I mean, it doesn't make sense. We make the whole exercise look like it doesn't matter. Because if you're going to look at accounts of a county when a governor has changed, then what are you going to change? I mean, it doesn't help anyone at all.
Absolutely. All right, and let's look at COVID-19, which of course is something that we have daily updates, but starting off with the school reopening, it had been thought that schools may be reopened by September, but according to an advisory team headed by the Education CS, Professor George Magoha, it looks like this may not be the case, and according to their recommendations, they say that we are now looking at 2021. Now, there is no universal date for the reopening of universities and schools, but they say the quicker schools can get things into place, the faster then students can go back to school. And maybe, Alex, your thoughts, and I want to believe maybe as a parent or a guardian, you know, thinking in terms of how do we take care of our children, and we, I think, might as well begin to get used to homeschooling as a new norm.
Yeah. Parents need to get prepared to actually learn how to stay with their children. Some of them, their children are strangers to them.
Absolutely.
And this is probably the high time that parents learn that. The unfortunate bit, and I have said this before, is that probably 90% of the parents, even if you ask them to homeschool, they don't know what that means. And therefore, they cannot even offer any assistance to their children, especially those ones in former settlements, in rural areas, for the parents who may not be as schooled as they should have been. So that is one. But on the other side, in terms of reopening of schools, Michael, if you think about Olympic Primary School, if you think about, I think, Ruai Primary School, and many other schools, Bungoma DEB, name them. If you think about those schools, then unless those schools have additional 5 more schools to take care of those children, it's just not happening. So the issue of social distancing and the numbers in classes and the number of teachers and the amount of facilities is just not tenable. And therefore, the issue of reopening of schools has hit a dead end because the facilities within the schools, and remember, this is a discussion that has been going on for a long time.
Right.
People have been making noise about the teacher-student ratios. People have been making noise about, even as we speak, infrastructure. There are still kids who are learning under trees.
Correct.
So as long as these issues, and fortunately or unfortunately, these are the issues that Magoha has to deal with right now. So he doesn't have a choice. Probably the thing that will be the last to rejoin the economy is going to be schools because of the circumstances and the facilities and the quality of the services that exist in those places.
That are currently there. Still on the same page of page 8, experts, what to do before resumption. So that might be an interesting article for you to read and see what you need to do for us to resume schools. But still on COVID-19, yesterday was a rather grim day in terms of statistics and numbers. 3,000 samples tested, 3,500 to be precise, but we have over 300 that came out positive. This, of course, becomes worrying because that's not the highest number of testing done in a day within 24 hours, but yet it is the highest figures, which generally tells us that we're not doing well in flattening the curve. This, of course, is worrying because we're looking at schools not being reopened. We're looking at an economy that is still struggling, and we're hoping that borders would be open, but that looks like that may not be happening soon. Alex?
It's anytime we talk about COVID, I almost do not know what to say because drive around the informal areas, walk around town, go into places which are crowded. There's no difference. Kenyans are going about their business as if nothing happened. Last week, for example, I had to talk to the county commissioner of Bungoma, telling him about funerals in my home county, and specifically even where I come from, where up to 300 people are attending funerals. People are cooking and eating as if nothing happened.
Despite the regulations that have been put in place.
I'm happy that he took action. But if you think about how Kenyans are behaving during this period, then it should not surprise us that these numbers are actually this high. And the unfortunate bit is that the community infections are now the ones that are happening. And therefore, that's why the numbers in terms of percentages from the test done before will always go up because the sample size will always produce higher numbers than before because of the fact that people are moving on with life as if nothing happened. But at the same time, there are certain places like informal settlements where even social distancing in itself is very difficult to enforce. And so we can only pray and hope that the curve will be flattened sooner, because in these places the infections are definitely going to go up. And what is even more worrying is the fact that asymptomatic cases are almost 70–80%. And therefore it means that there are so many people out there going around with COVID, and they have no symptoms, and they are passing on the same to other people, which is even more worrying than anything else.
And also maybe while still on that, especially with the symptomatic cases, we've seen how even Kenyans many people are wearing masks, which is not the recommended way. They don't cover their nose and mouth. They're literally wearing the masks so that they're not arrested, as opposed to not spread the disease.
Actually, the regulations that were passed, which are legal now, is that a mask should cover your nose and your mouth. 90% of the people that I have seen in the streets and everywhere else, they're covering their mouth. I do not know who told Kenyans that your nose is not part of what should be covered. And as long as that is happening, then we are not protecting ourselves and we're not protecting anyone else. It just does not matter.
It doesn't.
So the right wearing of masks has to be enforced if we have to deal with this thing.
All right, now another top story on the Daily Nation on the front page is regional leaders line up for slots in BBI structure. We do know that the BBI is one of those stories that have continued on and on and on. At some point they thought reggae had stopped, but it looks like the beats and the drum beats have been going on. But as we see regional leaders coming together to try and scrum up for positions in the BBI. Your thoughts on the BBI and where we we are with it now that the committee is just about to hand over the report to the leader of ODM and the president?
I think I want to comment that, but talk about, first of all, why we passed the 2010 Constitution. The reason why Kenyans voted for the 2010 Constitution was because there was a feeling that a lot of Kenyans were left out were left out of the national leadership, and therefore there was a feeling that resources were being channeled towards certain regions only. And so the creation of the counties was meant to diffuse that, number one, and also take resources back to everyone so that everybody feels like they have a governor and they have resources. But if you look at what has been going on for the last 10 years or so, it actually looked like the counties have not given us what we expected. And therefore the interest of at the national scene is still very high, because the national government still wields a lot of power, it still wields a lot of resources, and it still has a lot of positions which now means that they can dish out positions to several other people. And you having a county does not feel like you have all that you need. And therefore, if you think about the BBI recommendations, and one of the things that has been said many times is that an election and winner takes it all kind of outcome is what has been the outcry.
Right.
So when you send Raila Odinga home, who got almost half the votes as Uhuru Kenyatta, then what are you doing to the constituency of Raila Odinga constituency here, meaning his supporters? And so there was the argument that there needed to be a creation of a scenario where there could be feeling like after an election is done, and then you have a bigger government, bigger not in terms of numbers, but in terms of a few positions that could actually be filled by slightly more people, so that work can start happening. Because any time an election happens, work does not happen for almost 2 years, which is not also good for our country.
Right.
And so the reason why regional leaders are jostling for this is because an expanded executive will mean that you could have more leaders from different communities join you up, and therefore you can run for election. And because of that, then you will have a scenario where the president's side of the divide has more seats to share, and on the other hand, the William Ruto side of the divide will also have an opportunity, and that's why you're seeing his supporters changing tune. I saw my MP Didmas Baraza trying to say that it's good for them.
And they're suddenly now in the bandwagon
yes,
for the BBI.
Yes, because now that also opens up an opportunity for them to negotiate with other people and other communities for purposes of 2022.
All right, and well, because of time, that will be where we'll wind up and tie the news on newspaper review this morning. But do stay with us. A quick reminder of that question that we're asking. What do you think should be done to reduce stigma associated with mental illness? What do you think should be done to reduce stigma associated with mental illness? When we come back, Trixie